Yes. Welcome to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day. And we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. So you can expect tech issues, microphones on silent, Ben swearing. I'm joking. I'm only playing. Market Madness is the ultimate football podcast for fans who want to go beyond the headlines and into the stories that shape the transfer market. Each episode will feature high-profile guests, breaking news, features, games, and challenges. All you got to do is search at GiveMeSport across social media and feel free to comment. We'll try to read them out, and you can also listen back to the show later on your podcast app of your choice. Links can be found in the show notes. For more info on any of the stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSports website. Now, I'm just letting you know. Ben, how you doing? Okay, you're right over there. You sound a little bit silent. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm on silence, but then when I speak, I remember, unlike you, to unmute the mic. I'm on my travels, so you might hear a bit of music in this coffee shop, but I'm good. How are you doing after it's now apparent that Arsenal are not going to win the Premier League?
Well, even if we're not going to win the Premier League, I'll tell you what we will win, the Champions League. That's right. Now, for people who don't know, Olivia, who's also one of the co-hosts here, the lovely Olivia, she'll be here on the show later on. But myself, Joel Beya, and of course, Ben, the person that I'm speaking to with a bit of noise in the background, is here for the episode. So, okay, cool. What is coming up today? It's going to be a good one, people. I need you to stay tuned. So we'll be joined by Fabrizio Romano to look ahead to a busy summer of transfer activity. And we've also got the Athletics German football correspondent, Seb Stafford-Bloor. He'll update us on the Bundesliga. Is Harry Kane about to win his first major trophy? Ooh, it's looking likely. GiveMeSports' Tom Bogert tells us which players, including Kevin De Bruyne, could be moving to the MLS this summer. Tom also shares his thoughts in his beloved Liverpool, who are on the verge of Premier League glory. All that, plus Ben brings us the latest breaking news when it comes to the transfer. Okay, so let's get into it. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. All right, so if you've been watching the show, you'll know that it's time for Ben's question challenge. During the show, we'd like to ask Ben to find the answers to this question, right? Where is Basque superstar Nico Williams going to end up this summer? Is it Arsenal? Is it? Because I know he's going to be giving Man United a hard time in a couple of weeks. But where is he going to end up in the summer?
Yeah, we might hear the A word Arsenal come the end of the show. Certainly, Nico Williams is expected to move this summer. But just remember one thing: at Athletic, he's on very good money. So it's a bit like Martin Zubimendi, where the player will take a bit of convincing. And I'll let you know where he might move to at the end of the show. Ben,
don't tease me, okay?
Well, that's the whole point of the question. It is a tease.
No, but this is about me personally. Just please, all right?
All right, when we go to
a few weeks, let's keep it high.
When we go to Fabrizio Romano, I'll tell you off air the answer to put you out of your suspense. But everyone else is going to have to wait until the end of the show.
Yeah, all right, cool. Before we're joined by Fabrizio Romano, Ben, we need to chat about last week's European action. I want your thoughts on Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Us slapping them home and away and through to the semi-final of the Champions League and on our way to glory. Talk to us about that game, please.
Yeah, Arsenal were fantastic. All credit to them. They scored Real Madrid over the course of 2 games. The first leg, they could have scored more. Second leg, we were told, weren't we, in the build-up about come back. It never happened. And I think I worried slightly for Arsenal when Bukayo Saka tried that Panenka, got it all wrong, missed the opportunity to score early in the game. And you thought there'd be a rare response, but there wasn't. And Arsenal's game management was phenomenal. And I think it's one thing being 3-0 up in most games. But look at Chelsea. They were 3-0 up against Legia and they laboured through. Legia beat them 2-1 and there was nearly an upset. It's another thing being 3-0 up against Real Madrid and going to the Bernabeu and getting over the line with Vinny Jr., Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe. So Arsenal were brilliant. A defensive masterclass. a tactical masterclass, a game management masterclass as well. And you can see it there in that picture, what it means to them. And if you beat Real, then there's no reason why they can't go on now and win the Champions League.
That's right. I mean, all of that remontada didn't actually work for them, did it? So, yeah, I actually learned a new word just seeing that before the game. I was actually pretty scared. I was just like, what does remontada mean? What does it mean? But when the game went, I completely forgot it and I started using it as a banter word. So absolutely amazing stuff. And of course, Declan Rice, let us know in the comments, do you like long grain rice or do you like short grain rice? Either way, Declan Rice, he's just fine. He did it twice. Okay, so Spurs in the semi-final of the Europa League. How did you find that?
Yeah, it was a big win for Ange Postecoglou because we know that he's under pressure. I'm told that it's not as simple as win the Europa League and Postecoglou stays, but naturally winning it will boost his chances, but it's not a given. Tottenham have got a big decision to make during the summer. We know they like Andoni Iraola, but Bournemouth want to tie him down to a new deal. Marco Silva as well is on the radar as Spurs. But Postecoglou just alleviating a bit of the pressure. And it will be interesting now because at the time we're live, Tottenham have got this game against Nottingham Forest. Are they going to do what Manchester United did in the 1-0 loss to Wolves? Play a few of the kids, rotate, prioritise the Europa League. They got Bodo in the semi-finals. A very good opportunity on paper, a much easier game than Manchester United. So you would expect Spurs to go all the way through to the final. It might be a Spurs-Manchester United final. And I think from there, you would say if you're Tottenham, with United being quite inconsistent, a very good opportunity of Postecoglou doing what he said he always does. And statistically at the moment, it's true, wins a trophy in his second season. So right now, I think Tottenham will be quite calm. They've got one thing they have to do. Beat Bodo, you're one game away from Champions League. And for Postecoglou, that's going to help him maybe stay in a job beyond this summer.
No, it's true. I mean, it's been a topsy-turvy season for him for sure. I mean, how he's in the job still, if I'm honest with you, is definitely down to this European run. But that takes me on to the other game, the mad game, Manchester United versus Lyon. I thought it was over at 4-2. I was getting my memes ready. I was getting ready to message the lads in the group chat, FaceTime Stephen Howson, Rio Ferdinand. But then all of a sudden, they pulled it out. It was vintage Fergie time, that. Honestly, were you at the game by any chance?
No, I was doing Chelsea that night, who, as I said earlier, kind of limped through against Legia. But what was quite amusing was there was post-match press conference, and the Legia manager, to his credit, likes to talk. And he started an answer, and it was 4-2 to Lyon. And he ended his answer, and it was already 4-4. And then subsequently, Harry Maguire ended up scoring the winner. And I think Amorim deserves credit, obviously, to various Man United players, Kobe Mainoo, for example, Bruno Fernandes. But this isn't the first time that we've seen Amorim chuck Maguire up top. And every time I've seen him do it, even if he hasn't scored, he's had an impact in that box. So a phenomenal moment for Maguire, a bonkers game. There was Ryan Cherky celebrating, taunting the Man U fans. 10-man Lyon thought they were through. And it's the kind of turnaround that might just give Manchester United that boost and the momentum to themselves go all the way. So I don't know what you think, Joel, but my expectation now is Man United and Spurs are in this Europa League final, and one of them, therefore, is about to save their season.
One of them will be finishing in the bottom half of the table and potentially making it into the Champions League. I mean, if they get there, of course. But yeah, I just think that would be typical Manchester United. I've seen them do it, man, with the FA Cup, you know, and I've seen them throughout this whole period of not having Fergie. Like, they're still pulling out trophies. So my money would be with them, if I'm to be really honest with you. I think the occasion would be way too big for Spurs. But yeah, saying that as well, Ryan Cherky, what a good player, man. Like, I'm pretty sure he's going to be leaving soon. And we had a little chat about him last a couple of weeks ago when we were saying this player, he's been available for a particular price for a while, you know, since December. I think there's a release clause on him, isn't there, if I'm correct?
Yeah, and remember, Lyon probably still need to sell because John Textor will be looking for some income. We've constantly heard Cherki linked with the Premier League. I'm told the Liverpool links are just that, rumour for now, and Liverpool have got other options. But several other teams, ranging from Fulham and Everton, have looked historically. So let's see whether this is finally the window where Cherki goes, likely for a fee in the region of 25 million euros. And for a player of his quality, and given Lyon's financial situation, that could be excellent value to a Premier League club. But there's nothing advanced at this stage.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, you know what? Great player, great talent. Hang on a minute. Am I correct to think that there is breaking news now for you, Ben? Is there breaking news coming in?
Yeah, just a line I'm receiving on Leicester City, my club, actually, unfortunately relegated from the Premier League. And now there will be a crucial meeting between Leicester's board and Ruud van Nistelrooy. And there is a very realistic possibility that Ruud van Nistelrooy departs. I don't think we're quite going to see Ivan Juric territory where it's in the next 24, 48 hours, although you never know with football. But the expectation is that there is a likely chance that Leicester will have a new manager in the Championship. Now, there's a lot of respect for Ruud van Nistelrooy, and he's been dealt a tough hand. Leicester haven't really been able to back him in the market. They've got some PSR concerns, but they also haven't scored a home goal in the Premier League in 2025. And as a consequence, a change is more likely at this stage. And the meeting next week will crystallise the situation. Leicester have got a few candidates already in mind as part of their succession planning. There's Danny Roll, who's been linked with Southampton. There's Russell Martin, who is high in Leicester's thinking and plays a similar possession-heavy style to Enzo Maresca, which worked when Leicester came up to the Premier League 2 seasons ago. And then the most interesting one is Cesc Fabregas, who is highly rated by Como. It's going to be very difficult to prize him away, but he's there on Leicester's list of potential options as well. I'm steered away at this stage from Lee Carsley, and whoever comes in at Leicester is going to have to work on a tight budget, and there'll be a fair amount of upheaval as well. You've got Jamie Vardy, who's 38. You've got players like Ayew and De Cordova-Reid, who haven't perhaps got that many more seasons in them. You've got interest in McAteer and Didi Hermanson, the goalkeeper, who my understanding is Leicester may sell for a number in the region of £30 million. So there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be pay cuts for the existing squad to the tune of 35%. And as a result, the manager that comes in is going to have to build a new project from scratch. And it's also very possible that it's not just Van Nistelrooy who is part of this end of season review and potentially departs, but maybe the sporting director, John Rutkin, who's come under a lot of pressure from Leicester fans as well. So all change at Leicester, but keep an eye on the future of Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ben, this has just come in really quickly. Israel Agbo is asking, please, is Liverpool really serious about Isak? I mean, I want to know the same thing because I want to know how serious we are about Isak as well. But please, if you can ask,
well, everyone's serious about Isak if Isak is genuinely available. But at the moment, Newcastle have got all the cards. He's contracted until 2028. He's on good money. If they get Champions League, that's another tick in Newcastle's column that would suggest they're going to be able to keep him. And we have to wait and see whether Isak is also offered a new deal with even more improved terms. But right now, it's not the time to engage with Newcastle. They've been celebrating their League Cup win. Eddie Howe is recovering from pneumonia. We wish him well. The club are entirely focused on qualifying for the Champions League. They don't want to be negotiating club to club. And similarly, Liverpool are focused on getting over the line for what looks like an inevitable Premier League title. When we get the early part of the window, there will be approaches. With Liverpool, I'm hearing they're not going to drop 150 million on Isak, but they'll bid if he becomes genuinely available at a lower number. But they also like Hugo Ekitike and João Pedro. For Arsenal, we know that Isak is the dream target, but again, they've got Victor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko. For Chelsea, they like Isak, but they're more focused at the moment on Liam Delap, possibly Hugo Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko, and maybe even Victor Gyökeres comes back into their thinking as well. So there's a pattern here, right? Chelsea, Arsenal, or Liverpool would love, in theory, Isak, but it's no surprise that they're looking at other targets as well, because nobody at this stage feels like Newcastle's position is going to change now. Let's see in June. Let's see in the final weeks, the window towards September, if anything changes. But right now, all of these teams, Liverpool included, have other targets because it's still not apparent that Isak will genuinely become available.
Yeah, and Newcastle, as this is currently being recorded, are third in the league. I mean, honestly, it's really annoying me. Hopefully, Villa and the other teams involved can do a job and keep them out. Forest as well. Okay, it's that time now. It's that time for the main man himself. Not saying you're not the main man. Not saying I'm not the main man. Not saying Liv is not the main woman. But here we go. Mr. Fabrizio Romano is here to give us the spiel on the transfers. Let's get it cracking. Let's go.
Fabrizio, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Ciao, all good, all good, all good. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Lovely to see you too. I mean, we've got so much to talk about, as we always do on this podcast. We are going to start with, though, Kevin De Bruyne. Now, obviously, City announced that he was leaving after this season. We don't really still know where he's going to go, but how advanced are the talks between him and the Chicago Fire? Because obviously, America, I think it would be a popular place to go.
Yeah, it's a concrete possibility. At this stage, we are not yet at anything like final or advanced. It's still a conversation. It's still an approach from Chicago Fire. But what I'm hearing is that Kevin De Bruyne is quite open to speaking to them, to hear from them about the project, the idea, the vision they have. Let's remind that Chicago Fire already wanted to sign a superstar a few months ago, and the target was Neymar Jr. Then Neymar decided to go back to Santos. Now Kevin De Bruyne is a concrete option. So they're going to push. They're going to try also the next days to convince Kevin De Bruyne. He's going to also consider other opportunities, maybe in Europe, if some club can offer a good project, a good contract. So I think it's going to take some time before Kevin makes a decision, because it's also about his family. It's also life decision, not just a sporting decision. But for sure, Chicago Fire want to try, and Chicago Fire will be there.
And then what about this? I think this Aston Villa is a really, really interesting talking point, because I think Unai Emery, it does feel like favours Marcus Rashford as a number 9 at the moment over Ollie Watkins, who's sort of been their number 9 for so long now. How likely is it that Aston Villa are going to make his loan permanent at the end of the season? And what about PSG and Marco Asensio as well?
Yeah, for Asensio, I think it's going to be easier, because Asensio, in that case, has a different salary compared to Marcus Rashford. So Aston Villa are very happy with Asensio. The relationship with PSG is excellent since a long time between Monchi, Luis Campos, Nasser Al-Khelaifi. So I think there is a good possibility to find a solution for Marco Asensio. For Marcus Rashford, the real point is about the salary. Obviously, the salary of Rashford is always an important point, and that's why Aston Villa are careful now. Obviously, they're very happy with the player. The player is very happy with Unai Emery. As you mentioned, that point is absolutely crucial. Marcus Rashford wanted to find a club where he had the chance to feel important, to play Champions League football, and with Aston Villa, that was absolutely perfect. But now Champions League football, I think, is going to be a crucial factor again. If Aston Villa can qualify to Champions League, it's going to be easier also financially for them to pay Man United, to find an agreement with Marcus Rashford, and to make the deal permanent. Otherwise, it could be not that easy. But for sure, the player is happy there, and so I'm sure Villa is going to try. Then we have to see financially, also for the fair play and all the other rules, if Aston Villa can make it happen.
Fabrizio, good to see you. Let's move on to Chelsea. Andres Santos doing excellent at Strasbourg, linked with Bayern Munich. What's the situation when he returns to Stamford Bridge? Is there any possibility he could be for sale this summer, or are Chelsea going to shut that door?
Look, never say never in football, because we know during the summer transfer window many things can change. But the clear indication coming from Chelsea, and to be honest, it's not only now. Also 1 year ago when they sent a player on loan, has always been the same. André Santos is 100% part of the Chelsea project. He's going to be part of the Chelsea squad for next season. So that's the vision of the club. They want André to be part of this team. And also when they received important approaches, also, for example, I remember from Porto 1 year ago were prepared to pay a big transfer fee to sign André Santos on a permanent deal, to let Chelsea also have an important sell-on clause, to have a future financial control of the player. Chelsea said no. Chelsea wanted to keep the player, send him on loan to Strasbourg, and that was the clear idea. So at the moment, the clear indication I'm getting is that André Santos will be one of the midfielders for Enzo Maresca next season, also with Dario Sugo, who already signed his contract. There is obviously Caicedo, Enzo, so the idea for the midfield is quite clear and includes André Santos.
So it includes André Santos, but perhaps not João Felix. The expectation is he's going to return from Milan back to Chelsea, but maybe they'll be looking to sell or loan Felix again. Do you see a Felix permanent exit? And how difficult is it, given that Chelsea won't want to make a book loss?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it's not going to be easy to find the right solution, but I think they will do that. They will do that because João Felix at the moment, from what I heard, is not a really important part of the Chelsea project. His loan spell at Milan was not good at all. So at the moment, the idea is for sure from AC Milan, the player will not stay. They will not open any negotiation with Chelsea to keep João. And from Chelsea side, I think they will try together with the agent of the player to find a solution as soon as possible. In terms of timing, I think it could take some time because there is interest, for example, from Turkey. There is also interest from the clubs in Portugal, like especially Benfica, who would love to bring the player back. But financially, we know that the salary of João Felix is a big one. So usually these kind of deals always take time. So let's see how the conversation will go. But my expectation is for Chelsea and João Felix to part ways again in the summer and find the best solution possible.
So that's potentially one out at Chelsea. I mean, could this potentially be one in? What's the latest on Liam Delap? Is it Chelsea, United who are front runners to sign him?
Yeah, both of them are trying. Both of them are interested. So for sure, the player is doing fantastic. And so Man United and Chelsea are very attentive to the situation. From what I heard, they already made contact with the agents of the player to be informed on this relegation clause, £30 million. It's a big opportunity. Also, Man City have a specific clause for Delap. But what I'm hearing is that City are not planning to make any investment, of course, after signing Marmoush in the January window. And they have Erling Haaland. So the idea is Chelsea or Man United. There is also interest from Germany, it's true, but the player is really keen on staying in England, staying in Premier League. And so let's see, because for United now the full focus is obviously on Europa League to understand if they will play Champions League football, similar to Chelsea, but obviously in a different situation. So both of them are waiting to understand about Champions League football, about the financial investment they can make on the striker, but Delap is on both clubs' list for sure.
And then what about Dean Howson then at Bournemouth? Because it does feel like Chelsea are pushing for him as well. Who are Chelsea not pushing for these days, to be honest? And what about Liverpool? Because are they another club interested?
Yeah, they are, both of them, and I would add also Arsenal, because from what I'm hearing, also Arsenal are interested. Newcastle dream of him, but I think for Newcastle it's going to be very difficult to get the deal done now with Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal. These three clubs are really interested. So I think he's going to stay in the Premier League because there is genuine interest from Real Madrid, and also the player would be really attracted by Real Madrid as a Spanish player, of course. But at the same time, I'm hearing that internally at Real Madrid, they still not decided whether they want to sign a centre-back or not in the summer, how much they want to spend. They have Raúl Asensio at the club, who is doing very well. So that's why Real Madrid are not so convinced, not about Huijsen, but about signing a new centre-back in the summer. And this is why the timing is helping the English clubs. So Liverpool will be there, Arsenal will be there, Chelsea will be there. There is a race close, £50 million. So the negotiation is on player side, basically. And I'm sure that all these three clubs will push again in the next days, weeks to try reach an agreement with Dean Huijsen and his camp.
Let's talk about Bournemouth. There's a lot of focus, isn't there, this summer on potential outgoings, but one man they definitely would like to keep is their manager, Andoni Iraola. We know that Tottenham have looked at him in case Ange Postecoglou goes. What chances, though, of Bournemouth ending this speculation before the summer comes and Andoni Iraola signing a new deal?
Yeah, that's what they want to do. So Bournemouth are trying to extend this contract. They had already some contacts with those close to Andoni Iraola to try reach an agreement as soon as possible, improve his salary, discuss also eventual clauses into his contract for a future move. But they really want to keep him for this upcoming season. So the conversation is ongoing between Iraola and Bournemouth. It's true that there is also interest from Tottenham. Iraola and Marco Silva are two of the main names on the list at Tottenham for the potential new coach in case they decide to fire Ange Postecoglou. So there is a concrete possibility to see Tottenham trying to attack the situation, but Bournemouth are talking to Iraola. They are quite confident to keep him for one more season. So let's see how the conversation continue. I'm sure also this week there will be new round of talks between Iraola and Bournemouth, but for sure they want to keep him.
Now, Football writes some great stories. Yesterday, Liverpool moved within one win of the Premier League title, and Trent Alexander-Arnold came off the bench and scored the winning goal. He ripped off his shirt. He went over to the away end. It was passionate. It was dramatic. And some Liverpool fans think maybe, just maybe, he's not now going to go off to Real Madrid. How certain are you that this deal for Real Madrid, which is verbal at the moment, but soon to be formalized seemingly, is going to still happen? And is there any possibility that Alexander-Arnold might change his mind?
Look, that's a question for Trent, not for me, because I can't sign contracts, unfortunately. But to be honest, I think they are at super advanced stage. You know, as you mentioned, verbally, the deal is almost agreed. So it was just about sending all the contracts, checking all the documents, having the final signatures, but it's just about the formal part. Then in football, anything can happen, but I think in this case, Real Madrid have no doubts. If you speak with people at Real Madrid, they already consider Trent as one of the players at their club for next season, and I don't think this is going to change. Then I think Trent, with that celebration and in general, is always showing his commitment to Liverpool, how important it is for him to win this title, to show his love for Liverpool till the very end, and then there is Real Madrid waiting for him. Then if he changes his mind, we should ask him, but at the moment, again, Real Madrid are convinced that this is not going to happen.
Yeah, I think Liverpool fans are just clutching onto that little bit of hope, weren't they? When he hung the shirt on the corner flag, I think they were like, "Oh my God, he's going to stay." What about Victor Osimhen then? Is Saudi a potential destination for him? And what about suggestions from Turkey, which suggest that Man United have already agreed terms with him?
No, there is nothing agreed with any club at the moment. Also because for Man United, as we said, for Delap is the same for Osimhen and other targets. Man United are waiting to understand about the Europa League, whether they will play Champions League football next season or not. Obviously, they hope so, but it's still a long way to make it happen. So Man United are waiting for that, to understand how much they can really invest on the summer transfer window on the striker. And obviously, a Champions League budget would be completely different. So that's going to be a really important point for United. There is interest in Osimhen for sure from Man United. I would add also Juventus, because Juventus want to sign an important striker in the summer, and you will also appreciate Osimhen. There are more clubs interested around Europe. And then about Saudi, I think that can be a possibility, because Osimhen, I remember last summer we were explaining the situation. Osimhen wants his salary fully paid by any club, so he's not going to make any discount. He's on a big salary at Napoli, and so I think this is going to be an important point of the conversation with Man United, with Juventus, with any other club. From Saudi, obviously, they could cover his salary. He was ready to go to Al Ahly 1 year ago, then they decided to sign Ivan Toney on deadline day, but he was ready to go. The deal collapsed because of Napoli and Al Ahly, not because of Victor. So the player could be really open to making any sort of move, as long as the salary is okay, the project is okay. So he's going to take his time to decide, I think, in the next weeks and months. I don't see him staying at Galatasaray. So I think it's going to be an interesting case in the upcoming months.
And do you see Matthias Tell staying at Spurs then, obviously only on loan for this part of the season? Do you think Spurs will take the option to sign him permanently?
They are very happy with Mathys Tel in terms of attitude, in terms of qualities, in terms of potential. So let's see if they will try to renegotiate terms with Bayern at the end of the season. Let's see also what the player wants to do, because I think this is not only on Spurs, it's also on the player. The player has an important say on what he wants to do for his future. And obviously, for a player, it's important to understand Postecoglou staying or not, who could be the new coach, who was the project, Champions League football or not, because also Tottenham are in a semi-final in Europa League. So there are several points to clarify. I think it's going to take some time before all of them make a decision on this, but I can only confirm to you that Tottenham are quite happy with the player and also convinced that he has a huge potential, as they were when they decided to sign him.
And just last up, Fabrizio, Matheus Cunha, linked with Manchester United and Newcastle. Do you see his most likely destination as within the Premier League? And a bit like Dean Howson, could this be quite a quick deal, because there's a 62.5 million release clause, and seemingly both player and Wolves would like this resolved in the earlier part of the window?
Yeah, I think it can be a quick deal, to be honest. I think so. So let's see how quick, but I think this can be a quick deal because, as you mentioned, there is a release clause and all parties involved, the player, club, they really want to resolve the situation as soon as possible. So I think it can be a quick deal. There is genuine interest from Newcastle. They really, really like the player. They believe he could be perfect for their style. And similar to Manchester United, there is an appreciation, but for Man United, again, the budget is going to be important. So I think for Man United, it could take a bit more time to understand how much they can really invest on new signings in the summer transfer window. But for sure, there is genuine interest. I think Newcastle, in terms of interest in this moment, are a bit more aggressive because they consider Mateus Cunha as a perfect player for Eddie Howe. And so I think they can really go strong on this one. But again, from United, there is interest. And so with a close, anything can happen.
And just before I let you go, Fabrizio, and this is against my better judgment, but producer Nick has given it to me. I'm going to speak Italian to you, bad Italian. So
that's right.
Last week, we did this game where we were given some funny Italian phrases and we had to guess what they meant. So I am going to read something to you in Italian. I'll translate it because you probably can understand my English. Let's be honest. And then I'm going to give you 4 options and you have to tell me what it means. So the Italian phrase is this: Stai cercando Maria per Roma. And it translates to you're looking for Maria around Rome. How bad, first of all, was my Italian?
No, it was very good. I'm quite surprised. Very good. Congrats. We just have to improve the cercando part, the second word, but all the rest was quite perfect.
Stai cercando Maria per Roma.
That's very good. That's very good.
Beautiful.
You're looking for Maria around Rome. So in English, does this translate to A, you are on a romantic journey, B, you are looking for something that is impossible to find, C, you are being dramatic, or D, you are chasing somebody who is out of your league?
I think it's B.
And B is the correct answer.
Good. I'm very good at this game.
I was going to say, I think there was going to be something serious wrong for Fabrizio if he didn't get that right, to be honest.
Did you know that, Liv?
I knew it because I had the answer on my screen. I don't know. I think I probably would have gone for maybe B or D. I don't know. I'd have gone for B. I reckon I'd have got it right. I'd say that now. Fabrizio, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. Don't forget, you guys can ask Fabrizio your questions and he will do his very best to respond to them in the GMS newsletter. Head over to GiveMeSports website or you can scan the QR code as well. Thank you so much, Fabrizio. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day.
My pleasure.
See you later.
It's so funny. I'm there watching Liv, just laughing at Ben. Think she's so cheeky she is. She really, really is. But yeah, that's Olivia Buzaglo with Ben Jacobs and Fabrizio Romano. And I have to say, this is an interesting part of the show because there could be something happening. All right. After the results at the weekend, Harry Kane is about to win his first major trophy. Look, I can honestly say, even as an Arsenal fan, one of the greatest strikers that I've ever seen play the game. And it's semi-funny, but I am also kind of happy for him as well that it's finally happening and it's not him wearing a Tottenham shirt. So to bring us up to date with all of this, as well as the conclusion to the Bundesliga, we're now going to be joined by the Athletic's German football correspondent, Seb Stafford-Bloor. Seb, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. I was going to applaud you for being magnanimous there about Kane, right up until the bit about Tottenham where you had a little bit of a dig. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying to shake off a little bit of an Easter cold, so apologies for being extra husky, but I will try and bring you up to date.
Husky's good. Husky's good.
Yeah.
You know what? We've got to get straight to the questions. This is probably self-explanatory, but is the Harry Kane curse over?
Most probably, Joel. So over the weekend, Bayern gave Heidenheim a bit of a thumping. And then on Sunday evening, Leverkusen could only draw in St. Pauli, which leaves Bayern with an 8-point gap with only 12 points left to play for. So I think it is probably done now. And truthfully, it has been for some time. This has been the kind of the destination of travel for a few weeks and months. So yeah, Harry Kane almost has his hands on that trophy.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like, Ben, are you still with us? Are you able to? Oh, there you are. There you go. I was just checking that you're still there. I know you had some questions for Seb as well.
Yeah, just got the little mic on and off because I'm on my travels, Seb, in a busy coffee shop. But great to see you and keep up the good work that you do. Just a bit more detail on Kane first, and then I want to speak about Hugo Ekitike. What is it about Harry Kane and Bayern that's led to these electric numbers? And is there any possibility that Kane's still thinking about a last hurrah back in the Premier League, where he can try and break some Premier League records before he retires?
Yeah, hi Ben. Great question, and thank you. That's very kind of you. I think the numbers are, let's be honest, the numbers are the product of Bayern's position within the Bundesliga. So that's 60 goals in 60 Bundesliga appearances, 58 starts, 2 substitute appearances. The context, Robert Lewandowski, with whom Kane will always be compared, had 238 in 253. Hopefully the internet forgives me if I've got those numbers wrong, but I think they're right. So Kane is 1-1. It's about as good as you can get. And that's a result of course, the quality players around him. Kingsley Coman, Jamal Musiala, even though he's coming towards the end, Thomas Muller, Serge Gnabry. This season, Michael Olise, who's been absolutely wonderful, probably in the running to be Bundesliga Player of the Year. Certainly my favourite. And yet there's always a conversation around Kane because it's not just the number of goals you score, it's when you score them. So one of the narratives that ran all the way through the Champions League was, will Kane score the important goals at the right moments? And to a certain extent, he did. He scored home and away against Bayer Leverkusen, scored away in San Siro against Inter Milan, that brilliant goal. And yet Kane is never more than maybe 2 or 3 goalless games away from a crisis, to borrow a phrase from the German media. And so you have the numbers, and that's the kind of the superficial top line headline, and yet the discussion never ends. And it's really interesting. I remember I was at the German Super Cup the day that Kane made his Bayern debut, and it was the day after he'd completed his move. And I just by chance, I happened to be with Mario Gomez, the former Bayern striker, former Germany striker, and he said, when you're a Bayern Munich forward, it's not how many goals you score, because if you score twice, the question is, why didn't you score 3? If you score 3, why didn't you score 4? And so Kane will never completely win this challenge, if that makes sense. But I think he's played very well. And he's adapted to German football extremely well. He hasn't really missed a beat. He's dealt with a lot of the expectation that comes with playing for Bayern. And it's a success. I think obviously it's going to depend on what happens this year and next year, whether potentially next year he can add a Champions League, or whether in the summer it can be a Club World Cup. Regarding the Premier League, I think maybe that ship has sailed. I don't see Kane leaving the Bundesliga anytime soon. I think also, and this is just my feeling, it's not based on any source information, I think MLS is an interesting future direction for Kane, just because of his fondness for American culture, but also American sports culture. That's pretty well known. So I think that's really the one to look. And also, if you're Harry Kane and you've suffered quite a lot of physical punishment over the years, everybody knows about his ankles and the amount of injuries he suffered, and how physical a forward he is the Premier League the right place for you as you kind of approach your mid-30s? I would say not, if you want to have the longest career possible.
And I think you're right that Harry Kane kind of has that longevity to score wherever he goes. And I can tell you actually that even Saudi tried to get Harry Kane, but he wasn't having any of it. So scoring at the top level here, maybe breaking a Premier League record, but MLS is an interesting one, and we'll keep an eye on that for sure. So Kane may stay. One striker that may be on the move, though, from Germany is Hugo Ekitike, who is having this phenomenal breakthrough season at Frankfurt after a loan spell last season, 21 goals in all competitions, 14 in the Bundesliga, after not really getting opportunities or setting the world on fire at PSG. And now we're being told he's on the list potentially of Liverpool, maybe Chelsea as well. What do you think the future holds for Hugo Ekitike, and why has this been such a breakthrough season for the 22-year-old?
I'll go back to front there, Ben. I think, why is he so comfortable? I think because Eintracht Frankfurt and the city of Frankfurt has suited him really well. Obviously, they've developed this reputation as something of a, not just a striker factory, but a kind of a place for, reclamation projects. Randall Kolo Muani, his development within the space for a year after arriving from Ligue 1 before leaving to go back to go to Paris Saint-Germain was amazing. Omar Marmoush, who spent 18 months there before leaving for Manchester City, he developed as a player to a level that I don't think anybody expected him to. And Ekitike is the same. I think Ekitike benefited from playing with Marmoush initially, but also Frankfurt's a great city. It's a multicultural city where a lot of people can find their different communities. It's a very international club. And the other benefit there is that, unlike, I suppose, for people who don't know that much about German football, the spotlight is entirely on Bayern Munich, always. And so if you're playing for a club like Eintracht Frankfurt, you can develop at your own pace. You're not being treated as Harry Kane is in Munich, for instance, where every time you go through 90 minutes without scoring, that becomes its own event. So someone like Ekitike can develop, can sort of add little bits to his game, but also have the odd off moment. So he didn't play particularly well in the second leg against Tottenham in the Europa League. And that's kind of okay, because that's the nature of the environment. You will still be embraced by the ultras after the game, be applauded by the club, and it's accepted that you're a work in progress. And I think that's really suited him, because in contrast to, of course, his move to Paris Saint-Germain, I know, remember, Ben, obviously, he had a lot of options. He had certainly Newcastle as an option in the Premier League before he decided to head to Paris. Compared to that sort of stage, Eintracht is much more forgiving, and that's that's done him enormous good. But I think also this is a case of talent developing. What you have with Ekitike is someone who I'm still not sure whether he belongs as a kind of a left-sided, out in forward, or actually as a number 9. I think he can be a bit of both. He's a bit creative. So he's got all these different tools which are developing at the same rate. Goal scoring, creativity. I mean, he's a nightmare one-on-one for anybody who gets caught against him in the channel. I think plenty of fullbacks right and left will tell you that already. And it's a great success. I think pragmatically, Eintracht's philosophy with players is they don't stand in their way. So when a player has reached the height of their potential or the limit of their development in Germany, they're allowed to leave. So Marmoush, their reasoning was, this is a great offer. It's a great opportunity for the player, but also he has developed as much as he possibly can, and read into that, he's appreciated and valued as much as he possibly can in Eintracht. So that's the point at which they leave. I don't think they believe that Ekitike has reached that moment yet. So this summer, I mean, it's not to say that he's not available, but a conversation for Ekitike would begin at around 80 million euros, I think. And that's a lot to pay for. That's a lot at the moment, because, there are some sort of holes in his game. There are kind of some naivety still. And, that speaks to the kind of the process here. Give him another year, let him, play in a more stable side. A side who, for instance, didn't sell their best player in the middle of the season. That's been quite disruptive. So we'll see. I mean, there's definitely Premier League interest. I'm sure you've spoken about that before, and for good reason. But maybe he's still got a few strides to make in German football first.
Seb, I've got a couple questions wrapped up in one. It's about Bayer Leverkusen, actually. Look, if you're looking, for example, Alonso, everybody thought he was going to go Liverpool before. I'm sure Liverpool are happy that they got Onslaught, but prior to that, there was that connection. There's obviously the Real Madrid connection. What is happening? Where is he going? Is he staying? Is he leaving? Please let the GiveMeSport fan base know.
Well, I can tell you that in about 3 or 4 weeks, I think we'll all know. So Fernando Caro, Bayer Leverkusen's CEO, was speaking at the Laureus Sports Award. Spoke to my colleague Guillermo Rey at a couple of hours ago, and he said, there's going to be a decision made on this in a couple of weeks' time. If that's an option, if Real Madrid is an option that Alonso wants to take, then we're not going to be obstructive. I think one of the interesting things about this is, if you go back last summer, and you referenced this, Joel, the rumors about Liverpool, FC Bayern, Real Madrid, etc. What Alonso had at Leverkusen was a sort of perfect line of communication between him, Simon Rolfs, the chief executive for sport, and Caro, the CEO, and they were very close. Though that was a very cohesive group, and so it was a perfect situation. And it's not dissimilar to the Ekitike issue, in that Leverkusen do not occur in the media spotlight. Yes, they won an undefeated domestic double last season, and that brought them a certain amount of attention. But on average season, Leverkusen are just another team that plays in Bayern's shadow. And so as a result, if you're a young coach and you're still learning, you're still developing, you're still, evolving your own squad, it's a great place to do that and to be allowed to make a few mistakes. And this season has kind of shown that. Alonso has had a few, not bad moments, but a few moments where, if he'd given him a mulligan, probably would have taken it. I mean, I think back to the Europa League final last season when he fiddled about with his defense, moved Eben Tapsoba from one side to the other. Didn't really work. Got out coached by Gianpiero Gasperini, and ran into a pretty on-form Ademola Lookman. And there have been a couple of moments like that this season where it hasn't quite gone as well as it did last season. And yet no one really notices because it's Leverkusen and because Leverkusen is not Bayern. And so I think that helps to explain or contextualize his decision to stay there for perhaps longer than people would have been expecting.
This is the thing, though, isn't it? Like those clubs like Real Madrid, they only come round. Do they come round more than once? Who knows? But before we get into that debate, Florian Wirtz, like, will he be extending at Leverkusen, or will he leave for either Bayern or Man City?
Yeah, so the situation with Wirtz is actually quite simple. So there is an agreement in principle on a new contract at Leverkusen, which at the moment Wirtz is contracted to Leverkusen until 2027. This would be an extra year with a release clause built into it, which would become active after the 2026 World Cup, or from the beginning of the 2026 transfer period. At the moment, nothing is decided. Wirtz has not signed that new contract. And there are a few things tugging at him, really, because he grew up locally. So he was born and raised about 30 kilometers from Leverkusen. His father was a coach at one of the local football clubs. His dad is actually his agent now. Dad is also a Bayern fan, by the way, incidentally. But I think the factors that people should appreciate here are everything's available to him. I think there's obviously interest from the Premier League, from Spain, from other parts of Germany, inverted commas, of course, has been much reported. But Wirtz is loath to disrupt his momentum ahead of the 2026 World Cup. So at the moment, all things remaining equal, he will be in that kind of dual number 10 role with Jamal Musiala behind the centre forward, whoever that may be, maybe Tim Kleindienst next season. And so within that situation, a move abroad, perhaps where you have to make an adjustment to the culture, the language, the coaching style, the nature of the football, seems like a bit of a risk ahead of 2026. In addition to which, obviously Bayern Munich hold an interest. Pretty much every Bayern Munich board member has had their say on this or confirmed this publicly. Uli Hoeneß has talked about it. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge has talked about it. So there's no vagary there. There's no ambiguity. At the same time, Bayern Munich have had an expensive couple of years. So one of their priorities has been to reduce their wage bill, to get out from underneath some of the contracts that were written during a previous era. Also, even this season, they've extended Alphonso Davies, which was very, very important, but at great expense. Jamal Musiala has his new contract, which was absolutely priority because Musiala is an icon of German football now, and beloved in Bavaria, very, very important to the club's next decade. But as a result, with it, maybe with Leverkusen's asking price has always been publicly 150 million euros, which would add over 50 million euros to the German transfer record. So that's not the easiest check for Bayern Munich to write, and especially not now. So whether it can be done financially this season, don't know. And Leverkusen have always said, if he's not going to sign a new contract, we're not going to have a situation where he gets towards the final year of his contract, his value depreciates, and we miss out potentially on it will be clearly the biggest sale in their history. So a lot of different factors. I think it's one of those situations where the Wirtz family have always been really, really calm. There's never any panic. There's never any impulsive moves made, and I don't expect that to change this time. So give it a couple of weeks and there'll be some clarity, but all options remain open to him. There's no predetermined destination of travel at the moment.
And if we move on, Seb, to another player who perhaps has an open situation in Xavi Simons. He joined Leipzig for a package of 80 million euros in a strange kind of deal that to delay in order to make sure that PSV didn't get any of the money. So it was a loan that eventually became a permanent sale. And now Leipzig own the player, and relatively recently. Is there still a feeling that maybe he could leave and even end up in the Premier League?
Yeah, so I think from Leipzig's perspective, Ben, the Xavi Simons deal that was concluded in January makes sense in a lot of different ways. Whatever the outcome, it is a good business decision because even if you were to leave, they still make a very quick profit on it without activating that transfer to the kind of the full 80 million euro level. I think a lot of things in Leipzig at the moment are going to depend on whether they make it into the Champions League. So they drew at the weekend, really disappointingly, the Holstein Kiel. Xabi didn't play; he was suspended. But if they miss out, even if they just make the Europa League, there's going to be a budgetary consequence for the club. That's going to affect Benjamin Šeško. That's probably going to affect Castello Lukeba, the centre back, but also Simons, and that will come into play. Conversely, I think one of the things to watch is if they were to make it into the Champions League, I think he might sign a new contract. That's just a hunch. That's based on conversations. That's not something that is properly sourced. But I think because at the moment that contract isn't very long, and so if he were to stay at the club and then move into next season, all of a sudden his value would quickly depreciate. So that's a very fluid situation. I think, as with a lot of these things, because German football has a bit more budgetary responsibility in terms of the way it's run. There are no big checks from outside investors that can just be written. Everything depends upon revenue coming in. And pretty stringent controls. We're going to have to wait until that top four battle is concluded to see who makes it across the line. And if it's Leipzig, I think he'll stay at least another year.
And in that race for Champions League, you've got Dortmund as well. On the one hand, Sergio Guirassy on fire. He's the top scorer at the moment, I believe, in the Champions League, even though they've gone out. On the other hand, they're currently 7th in the table. Domestically, at least, Dortmund must be quite disappointed with an inconsistent and leaky at the back campaign.
Yeah, I've heard it described in harsher terms than quite disappointed, Ben, by Dortmund fans, because they've had a very, very difficult year. They've languished in mid-table for most of it. Sacked Nuri Sahin in January. Now, they're not out of the Champions League race because there's been a revival under Niko Kovac. They've started to play pretty well. They've started to adapt to Kovac's style of football. And because the teams above them are not finishing that strongly, which are, so Mainz could only draw at the weekend, Leipzig we've talked about, they could only draw. Eintracht Frankfurt drew 0-0 with Augsburg on Sunday afternoon. So Dortmund, who won 3-2 against Borussia Mönchengladbach on Sunday afternoon too, they've closed the gap. And so it's possible. And they've got quite a decent run in too. So let's see. I mean, I think there are a couple of different issues in Dortmund, and I'll kind of sum them up as quickly and as concisely as I can. Things that we know are going to happen. Jamie Gitten's going to leave the club. Just not sure for how much money. That will depend on where they finish because, I mean, Gitten's value has dropped off a little bit because the physical toll of playing a full season for the first time in his career has kind of bitten a little bit. I don't know about Guirassy. Guirassy has a release clause in his contract, which is worth more than 70 million euros, which for someone who's in his late 70s, apologies, sir, in his late 20s, it's an awful lot of money. But at the back of Dortmund's mind has been, and Ben, you reported on this at the time, this really interesting loan deal with Chelsea for Connie Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka, who has kind of been a bit of a bystander because he's barely been fit for much of this season. He's played, I think, around 350 minutes in total, which is not a lot. And yet he seems crucial to the kind of the new era of Dortmund when they want to start sort of renovating their squad. So can they find enough money in the transfer market? Can they move enough players on whereby that transfer, which I believe it would cost them, as things stand, without a renegotiation, around 50 million euros? It's awfully hard to do that if you haven't got Champions League revenue as well, even with the kind of the bonus of playing the Club World Cup in the summer. So it's very difficult. So that brings into play Julian Brandt's future. Is he staying at Borussia Dortmund? Maybe, I don't know, Emre Can possibly. Salih Özcan probably won't stay beyond the summer. Karim Adeyemi, he's become very, very important to Niko Kovac and suits Kovac's style of football. But what's his future? Marcel Sabitzer, bit of a difficult season for him, been in and out of the team, had a few disagreements with Shaheen before he left, has been injured. What's his future? So loads of different moving parts in Dortmund. Without question, the one certainty there, Ben, is they need a reboot. That squad needs to be remodeled and rebuilt, and they need to start striding forward into a proper new era, not just a continuation of what's happened to this point.
Seb, I really want to say thank you very much for your time today, because that insight was fantastic. But You're not getting away that easily. No.
what's coming for me now?
Got to stay online, mate, for the GiveMeSport viewers, because you're going to be part of the Mailbag Challenge. That's right. You're going to be helping us here. You're going to be competing against Ben, who can answer the most questions in 90 seconds, and they must be full answers. No, yeses or nos. You okay with that?
Yeah, of course I am.
All right, cool. So do you talk too much? Should this be easy for you, or what do you reckon?
I don't know, I talk too much. I had a little bit of a coffee before I came on, so maybe that might work in my favor. Just a little bit of extra caffeine to maybe I can talk more quickly as well. So extra info, dominate a little bit, take away some of Ben's time. Who knows? Yeah.
No, and you know what? It's actually great, because earlier on, Ben put out a tweet asking questions. What should the questions be for this challenge? So thank you very much, every single person that got involved. And also, please don't forget to follow our guy Jacobs, Ben, aka Ben Jacobs, on X for you to get involved in the future. Okay, so Seb, you're gonna go first. Are you ready?
All right. Yeah, I'm ready, Joel.
Cool. Your time will start after I finish reading the first question. Get your stretchers ready. We're getting going. All right. So, will Dortmund be forced to sell any key players if they don't make top 4?
Yes. Gittins, Adeyemi, Sabitzer.
Okay. Oh, all right. Cool. What's the latest on Jonathan Tah?
Jonathan Tah will leave Leverkusen this summer. His contract will expire, and interest from Bayern Munich from last summer, also interest from Spain.
All right. Could Bayern Munich go for another striker if Kane gets injured again?
Yeah, they might well do. I think they'll try and reinforce his position. So options for them: Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart, Jonathan Burkhardt from Mainz would be both as kind of a second choice rather than an actual rival for Kane.
Okay. Any big names expected to leave Leipzig this summer?
Yeah, with the caveat that it depends on Champions League qualification. I imagine Benjamin Šeško will go, and possibly Castello Lukeba.
What is Thomas Muller's situation at the end of the season?
Thomas Muller's Bayern Munich contract will come to an end. It will not be renewed, and he will either leave and play elsewhere or retire.
Sancho, could he return to Dortmund permanently?
Maybe. Financially super difficult, Joel.
Oh, that was a cheeky one. What's going on with Manuel Neuer? Are Bayern already looking for his long-term replacement?
Yeah, well, they think they found it. So Neuer has signed an extra 1-year contract. He'll stay until the end of next year, 2026 at least. They signed Jonas Urbig from FC Köln in January. Köln, he's young. He's a little bit brittle at the moment, but he's super talented, really great with his feet. And they kind of hope that over time he'll become a first choice.
So you answered 7 questions, okay?
So I get a little bit of bonus for like sneaking that last 5 or 6 words in after your whistle there, Joel.
Well, it's still part of the same
harsh.
Question, so it's all right.
Come on, it's Monday. It's Easter Monday as well. Be charitable.
Yeah.
There's a VAR check though on the maybe answer.
Let's do it on gut instinct like the old days. I think it's fine. I think it was fine.
All right, I'm going to give it to you.
All right, cool. So Ben, it's now your turn. Your time will start after I finish reading the first question. And please, no maybes for you, okay?
Don't bottle it now, Ben.
All right.
Don't feel the pressure.
I'm not going to get 8.
Don't crumble.
If Chelsea get UEFA Champions League football, will that affect targets such as Delap and Sesko?
Maybe. No, I'm only kidding. Either way, their targets are the same. They want a striker, Delap, Sesko, Ekitike, all on the list. A left winger as well. Centre-back, we know about their interest in Dean Housen. So those are 3 big positions.
Will Chelsea get a new sporting director if they don't qualify for Champions League?
No, both sporting directors, they're back. They're part of the long-term project. I expect Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart to stay.
Is there any truth Zubimendi prefers Real Madrid?
Not really. The interest in Zubimendi is not concrete from Real Madrid. It might be if Xabi Alonso ends up being the manager, but Arsenal are confident they're going to get that one over the line.
Is there any chance that Neto leaves Chelsea?
I don't think so. Only just signed. Chelsea are looking for a winger, but it's more with Mykhailo Mudrik's provisional suspension in mind, and Jadon Sancho, of course, could go back to Manchester United.
Will Man United have money for a new goalkeeper?
Well, that's the question. Will they have any money for anything? But the priority is finding a number 9 first. and then outgoings will define what else they can do. But Onana and Bayindir have got question marks, so a new goalkeeper could definitely come in.
Will Chelsea sack Maresca, and when?
No, Maresca's safe. I expect him to be reviewed in years, not at the end of this season.
Could Jeremy Frimpong at Leverkusen finally get a Premier League move now?
Yeah, that's a possibility, but I think Leverkusen will still fight to try and keep him. Probably the same as with him.
Oh my gosh!
I don't think that bit should count. I have to say, I feel like he was maybe 10-20% through his answer, so you kind of round that down, I reckon,
Well,
Joel.
if I'm honest with you, that tied up with the maybe sounds to me like it's a 7-all draw. Well done.
That was very noble. That was very noble. I'm virtually shaking your hand there, Ben.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't think he was going to get there. I thought, Ben, I was like, Ben, you're making this harder for yourself here, really. But well done. You really grasped it there. It was like United versus Lyon all over again. Well done. Without the win. Well done. I want to say, Seb, thank you very much for joining us. You can follow Seb's work over at The Athletic, as well as on X. He's at Seb SB. Okay, that's a really good X name, by the way. Really simple.
Thanks, man. Like I don't feel like if I'd left that any later, I would have got it. Someone else would have snaffled it.
That's really good. That's vintage stuff right there. But anyway, listen, you are watching Market Madness on GiveMeSport. Okay, so a little update. If you've just joined us and you've missed our Champions League and Europa League chat, no one cares about the Conference League. Sorry, Liv. Sorry. We were also joined by the German football expert, Seb Stafford-Bloor, to chat about Harry Kane. But don't worry, you can watch the show back on GiveMeSports YouTube channel later or listen on your podcast app of your choice by searching for Market Madness. Ben, I'm being told that we have some breaking news. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, this relates to the Shakhtar Donetsk winger Georgi Sudakov. My understanding is that Napoli are in talks to try and sign the Ukrainian. They've bid and failed before, but Shakhtar's expectation is that Sudakov will leave this summer, and they are already in club-to-club talks. Napoli also like Alejandro Garnacho, so we wait and see whether a deal gets over the line. But I'm told with Sudakov, the two most likely destinations are Italy and Napoli, or England. Now, in England, there's no club-to-club talks yet between a Premier League team and Shakhtar, but I can tell you that Brentford are interested. Sudakov had been given a price tag similar to Mudrik's 100 million euros package, but my understanding is that Shakhtar would settle for around 55-60 million euros. Napoli are looking more at 40 to 45 million euros. So talks there are underway. Napoli have more than one target or possibility, so it's not definite that they will bid again. But Napoli are the most advanced side at the moment for Georgi Sudakov. But just keep an eye on Brentford because they could enter the race this summer.
It was going to happen at least once in the episode, and it with a muted mic. It really was. But
yeah,
no.
and also, Joel, the other thing I was going to tell you is that earlier in the week, before this news broke, I actually caught up with the Shakhtar Donetsk CEO, Sergei Polkin, I should say. And Polkin has done a big interview with GiveMeSports, which will be out in the next few days about a number of things, how Shakhtar are trying to stabilize during the war, what their big picture plans are, how important Champions League football is. But I asked him about Georgi Sudakov as well. And here's what Sergei Polkin had to say.
No, we are now in negotiations in respect of Sudakov. And I cannot tell now or announce about amounts and etc. etc. I mean, we have still negotiations, and I believe that we will close this deal, and we'll close it with good financial. I mean, it will be a good financial deal for us, actually. Therefore, I believe in success, But he is really his top player. Sudakov, one of the best in the world on his position, Therefore, definitely, if we will not finalize deal with current club, another one arrive, Therefore, I am not worried about Sudakov at all.
That sounds like an absolute worldie of an interview. Well done there, Ben, man. Really sitting down with the big dogs. Hang on a minute. Am I correct to think that there's more breaking news happening right about now?
No huge breaking news, to be honest, but what I can tell you is, and Seb mentioned this, Xabi Alonso is the main target for Real Madrid, the only target. And the expectation is that his future is going to be resolved in a matter of weeks. So it's not going to drag on for the entire summer. And even though Leverkusen want to keep Xabi Alonso, as Seb Stafford-Bloor mentioned, Fernando Caro has spoken in the last few hours, and he has confirmed something he actually told me last year, that there's no formal release clause for Xabi Alonso, but there is a gentleman's agreement that if a team he's played for comes in, so Bayern, Liverpool, Real Madrid, or Real Sociedad, then Alonso will be allowed to leave. And Real Madrid, despite reports, are not looking at Jurgen Klopp. They're only looking at Alonso. Alonso's also keen on that move. The expectation is that Carlo Ancelotti will leave. Ancelotti has a meeting with Real Madrid's board after the Copa del Rey against Barcelona. It will then be clarified if he's exiting at the end of the season, if he's going off maybe to Brazil, if he's going to stay on for the Club World Cup this summer. But it's a matter of time before Ancelotti leaves, and then Alonso is the main candidate. And my understanding is it will take compensation of around 10 to 12 million English pounds to get Alonso from Leverkusen in the absence of this formal release clause. And we now have to wait and see the timeline. But I think when we get to the end of April, it'll be clear Ancelotti is going. And then when we get into May, Alonso and Real Madrid is expected to advance pretty quickly. So keep an eye on that developing story.
Oh, man. You know what? That's good to know. I mean, anything can happen on Market Madness, A few moments ago, we were not pretty sure. We waited, and then straight away, breaking news, and there's an update. I have to bring on one of the most interesting people that I've met. I love his energy. MLS insider Tom Bogert has sent us a video, updated us on all MLS transfers. The spoiler alerts, Kevin De Bruyne's info coming up. Let's play the video. Tom, it's all on you, mate.
Hi guys, I'm here to tell you a little bit about what's going on right now in Major League Soccer in the world of transfers. Let's start with Kevin De Bruyne. I know that's why you brought me on. So myself and the very handsome Ben Jacobs has reported that a number of MLS clubs are interested in signing the Manchester City legend who is going to be leaving the club this summer when his contract expires. Right now, it's pretty wide open. There are preliminary talks with a number of clubs. One of them is not San Diego FC, as myself and Ben has reported. We have also reported that he prefers MLS over Saudi Arabia, and he will have options in Europe, and we'll see where this is going to go. Right now, there are a number of teams who have positioned themselves as potential landing spots for De Bruyne. Inter Miami, Chicago Fire, NYCFC, and DC United. Let's kind of go on down the list, and those clubs were first reported by The Athletic's Paul Tenorio. Inter Miami have his discovery rights, and in Major League Soccer, that just means right to negotiate. They do not have an open designated player spot, which means they can only pay him about $800,000 before the end of the season. He is asking for much, much more than that, as he damn well deserves. So we'll see what happens. Chicago Fire, for me, makes the most sense because they have a lot of money. They have one of the richest owners in the league, an owner that is very ambitious and will put his money forward to spend on the team. He makes perfect sense in this system. He would be the orchestrator, the number 10, the absolute superstar that makes this team from good to great. So that's a team that I'm looking at. We'll see what happens. There are no offers yet. NYCFC within the City Football Group, that makes a lot of sense for me as well. Miami, of course, they're going to try. If he wants to play in Miami and he wants to take $800,000 instead of, let's say, $12 million, $15 million, then that's his prerogative. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but those are the options. DC United, Christian Benteke is there. I don't see if that's going to happen, but hey, they're a wild card. You never know. Elsewhere in Major League Soccer, the transfer deadline is still open. Yes, you heard that right. The league starts in the end of February, and the primary transfer window goes until April 23rd. That's Wednesday. There are a few things that are going on. It is a little bit difficult for clubs in MLS to sign players from Europe at this time at the end of the window because, obviously, all the European seasons are coming to an end. They cannot sign new players at this time. So if you're looking at a player in Europe, it has to be a very specific situation. One of those players is Robert Bozanic. He plays for Bovista right now. Real Salt Lake are trying to sign the player. They've pretty much had a deal agreed for almost 2 weeks. They need to have it signed off by Bovista and everything that's going on at that club as they're in the relegation battle and everything that goes with finances at European clubs when they're in relegation battle. So Robert Bozanic to Real Salt Lake, that's one to watch. I'm expecting that one to happen, but you never know with Bovista. You never know with some of these transfers. Elsewhere, Julian Gressel, he plays for Inter Miami. He was a key part of the team last season. Javier Mascherano took over as head coach this offseason, and Julian Gressel, not only is he not in the picture as a clear starter, he hasn't made his MLS debut this season. They've played 8 or 9 games, and he has not played at all. He is very clearly out of the plans. There are a number of teams around MLS calling about him. He's the biggest name that I think is going to move before the deadline. A couple others. I've reported that the San Jose Earthquakes have signed U.S. national team fringe player DeJuan Jones in a trade with the New England Revolution. They've also signed England Youth International midfielder Noel Buck. Buck was on loan at Southampton's U21s at the second half of last year. He came back in January to return to New England for preseason. He's a really talented player. He's on the outside looking in at his club. The coach doesn't love him. I think he's going to be a really good signing for San Jose. That's a player to watch in the future because he will go back to England at some point, just not yet. Elsewhere, Liverpool are about to win the title. I don't know if you guys have asked me. I don't care if you ask me. I'm going to tell you about it. Liverpool, I'm a fan. I know the American accent. I don't care. I don't sound Scouse, but I've been a Liverpool fan since the early days of my life. They haven't been very good in my teens, so I've earned this. I've been there through the Roy Hodgson era. I've been there for Paul Konchesky. I've been there through all the crap. I enjoyed Jurgen Klopp, and I've been enjoying the Arne Slot season. So back to you guys. Give me a little bit of Liverpool shout-out.
Always great to hear from Tom. But, Ben, we need to find out about the question we asked you at the top of the show concerning Nico Williams. Will he be going this summer? Is he going to be leaving Athletic Bilbao or not? Please let us know. And is he going to
it was funny. Tom Bogert's basically like, give me some Liverpool love. And we're like, we're moving on. So sorry, Tom. There's no time to speak about Liverpool love or even Arsenal Champions League. Nico Williams, the situation is this. There's 58 million euros release clause, and he could finally leave a club that he's very much in love with. The overall cost of the deal is expensive, though, and the reason for that is because Williams has got a very high wage, 200,000 euros at the moment, and then there's agents' fees and taxes. So there is Premier League interest from Arsenal and from Chelsea as well. Arsenal are looking at a left-sided attacker, and it will be for Andrea Berta to decide whether or not there's now value in Williams, because Arsenal have been put off by the cost in the past. Same story for Chelsea. They've got Nico Williams very high in their thinking at the moment, but you've got to make it financially feasible. He'd have to fit into their wage structure. Then, in addition to that, they've got Alejandro Garnacho and Jamie Gittins, to name but 3. So I think Arsenal and Chelsea from the Premier League will be the main 2. And then Barcelona still dream of somehow negotiating a cut price deal, getting the player to take a wage cut, and maybe, just maybe, reuniting Williams with Lamine Yamal at club level, having played so effectively together for their country. So Barcelona could be there as well. But if he finally decides to leave and he's in love with the club, like Zubimendi is with Sociedad, then Premier League is a possible destination, and Arsenal and Chelsea are still deciding if they think the overall outlay is worth it.
Well, I can guarantee you that he would be worth it if he came to Arsenal. I mean, look, Chelsea got Neto. They might be, cashing in and staying with Sancho, shall I say. But yeah, you know what? I would love to see him at Arsenal. I think he would suit our system. I think, him giving Martinelli a little bit of a kick up the bum as well would be great. I don't know. What do I know? But hopefully if we can make it happen, let's make it happen, powers that may be. But I want to say we are done today on Market Madness. Thank you for tuning into the show. We'll catch you in 2 weeks' time. And as usual, we'll be talking about the biggest football transfer stories with top guests. You can watch us live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Search Give Me Sport. Or you can listen back on your podcast app of your choice. Just search for Market Madness. For more info on any of the stories we've discussed and much more, head over to GiveMeSport.com. See you next time. Joe Beya, Mr. Ben Jacobs, signing out. Peace.